Hi, Carlos. Let's see if we could try this again. See
Hi,
if
Kendall.
we'll have the same issue. Hopefully not.
If not, I can. If we do, I'll just have to join through the other device again.
Okay, that's very unusual. We must have started again because we were doing good.
Okay, I see the announcement now. Can you still hear me?
I sure can. Thank you.
Oh, good. And Kendall, this will also be a hybrid meeting, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
It's
this will be a
listed
hybrid
as
meeting.
such.
Thank you, Kendall, and thank you, Mayor. I think that was Mayor Dedina. Sounded like his voice.
Yeah, and just be patient.
Am I good to go? Production?
Hi,
Good afternoon,
Supervisor. You're missing all the fun here. We're all hanging out. I'm with John and I are hanging out. So
Well, I can see the two of you kibitzing.
the leaders are here.
Well, that's why I didn't show up.
Yeah, the important people are here.
I heard the game was locked.
You know, I told you we hadn't hung out yet in person. So anyway, we're back.
Is that Vivian?
Yeah, Vivian's gone. She left. As soon as I showed up, she left.
I thought it was only virtual for the committee, so I missed the memo. I would have stayed.
I had dues ask me.
All right, it's 12:30. Are we ready to go? We have a quorum?
Please, 1 second, Chair.
They just need a minute, though.
Why do, oh. We're waiting a minute.
You have somebody to tell it for her.
We have a quorum, Chair Dedina.
I'm sorry, you have to wait a second. But we're not.
Hi, hey, this is Mario Orso. Can you promote Erica Garcia to a panelist? She's the presenter from Mexico.
Gracias.
Chair Dadina, you have a quorum, and we are ready to begin the meeting when you are ready. Chair, we have a quorum.
We're ready to start? Great. Welcome, everybody, to the March 25th, 2022 meeting of the Sandag Borders Committee. This is our first hybrid meeting. I think some of you are also involved in the main board meeting, so it's good. Hopefully next time more of you can show up and hang out at the coolest meeting at Sandag by far. So anyway, also we respectfully acknowledge that we live and work on traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of tribal nations, including the Kumeyaay, Luiseño, Cupeño, and Coahuila peoples. We share strong historical and cultural roots that unite us with all our neighbors. And then please note simultaneous interpretation is available. I would like to start by asking our interpreter to briefly explain how the feature works. Carlos, take it away, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dadina. I will begin with instructions in Spanish and I will be back with the instructions in English. Muy buenas tardes y gracias por acompañarnos a esta sesión del Comité Fronterizo de Sandag. Se está ofreciendo interpretación simultánea. Si nos acompaña presencialmente en la sala y necesita interpretación, le invitamos a dirigirse a la recepción y solicitar un receptor. Parece un pequeño iPod y lo puede utilizar para escuchar la reunión en español. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. Si nos acompaña vía Zoom, diríjase a la barra de controles de Zoom. Ahí verá un icono que parece un globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil, presione primero más, los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Good afternoon once again. Interpretation is being provided to and from Spanish. If you are joining us in person at the Sandag boardroom and need interpretation into English, please check out a headset from the receptionist. The headset looks like a little iPod and comes with an earpiece, which you can use to hear the meeting in English. You simply hold the earpiece to your ear and interpretation will begin automatically. If you are joining us via Zoom, please scroll down to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. There, click on the interpretation icon. It looks like a little world, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, you would first press more, the three dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Gracias, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Carlos. And so that we have a quorum confirmed, and I would like to quickly review the process and guidelines for participating in today's hybrid meeting. For Borders Committee members, please note that you're not automatically muted by the meeting organizer, so you'll have to mute and unmute yourself. In addition, when you'd like to speak, please turn on your camera or raise your hand by opening your participants panel on the Zoom toolbar and clicking raise hand at the bottom. Once I see you, I will recognize you at that time. For members of the public who would like to speak on an item, please use the raise hand item icon in the Zoom toolbar. When you are called, you'll be unmuted by Sandag staff. After your comments, you will be unmuted by Sandag staff. After your comments, you'll be muted by Sandag staff. If you are calling into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone. If you would like to comment on an item, you may need to enter *6 to unmute yourself. All comments, whether emailed or live, will be made part of today's meeting record. Any questions from anybody on that before we continue? Again, if you're watching and you decide to run and drop everything and join us in person, please do. We're on the 7th floor of the Sandag meeting. I want to thank my longtime colleague and former predecessor as chair of this committee, Mayor John Mento from Santee, has joined us today. He'll be making comments. It's nice to have him, as well as Hector Venegas, our legendary Sandag staffer, for being here, as well as everyone else is here. So with that, we'd like to move on to public comments and communications and member comments. Are there any comments from the public?
We have no public comments in person or virtually.
Yes or no? Are there any members who would like to make a comment?
No hands.
No hands? Okay. Moving on to the next item is agency report from Victoria Stanwyck, Chief of Staff, and she'll provide today's update, a SANDAG update. Please take it away, Victoria.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Oh, there you are.
Good afternoon, Chair Dedina, committee members. It's good to see you all today. Hassan, can I go? Hassan has designated me to provide the Borders Committee with agency updates from moving forward. We are thrilled to welcome the CTC to the San Diego region this month. We had the opportunity to discuss some of our region's most pressing priorities, including the future of Otay Mesa East, which is a major project that will make it easier for people to access jobs, healthcare, and families across the border. Also this month, SANDAG and the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District held an interactive community workshop to discuss how we can work together to improve air quality, social equity, with many opportunities for the border region. We've also made significant progress with our regional bike network. As you may know, last month we started construction on the Pershing Bikeway, and we held a ribbon cutting for the 4th and 5th Avenue Bikeway. And on Saturday, we hosted a community bike ride to celebrate the grand opening of the Georgia Meade Bikeway. By this spring, SANDAG will open 11 miles of new bikeways connecting all of our borders in the region. We're doing this just in time for Bike to Work Day on May 19th. Registration is now open for those who want to participate in the annual event, and businesses are encouraged to host a pit stop. In North County, SANDAG and Caltrans opened 9 new miles of carpool and HOV lanes on the southbound I-5 from the city of Carlsbad to the city of Solana Beach. And construction crews began phase 2 of the San Diego Lagoon Wetland Restoration Project to create 84 acres of wetland habitats and new trail connections. In other news, we'll be beginning to hear more about Youth Opportunity Pass pilot program, which was just held at the board, which will start in May with a partnership between MTS and NCTD. We want to get the word out to as many people as possible and as soon as we can, that we hope that you can all tap on you to champion this new amazing opportunity for those who are 18 and under. This will also provide great benefits to people around the cross-border region. We look forward to following up with more information in the coming weeks on the Youth Opportunity Pass. Lastly, on the digital equity front, we will be kicking off our Get Connected campaign in support of the digital equity strategy over the coming months. And also this weekend, SANDAG will be joining the San Diego Chamber of Commerce and many of you, I'm sure, for the advocacy trip to Washington, D.C. We have several meetings scheduled with the administration and moving forward with the objective of moving forward the Otay Mesa East project. We will provide you an update on these meetings at your April 15th meeting. This concludes my report, Chair Dedina. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Victoria. That was a great example of a really concise, high-impact summary. So thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the public or from our board members?
I see no public commenters.
Any board member comments or questions? Thank you so much, Victoria. Appreciate it. And now we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is approval of the meeting minutes. And can any of our members entertain a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes? Please say your name for the record.
Anderson. Second by Anderson.
First, Drucker? Okay. Great. Can we get a, are there any, first, before that, are there any comments from the public?
Chair, may I, Chair?
Oh, sorry, Hassan.
May I make one comment?
Sure.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you. I do want to report that, in case you're going to get a report today probably about Otay Mesa 2. And I want to thank your chair for his leadership. But traveling to DC, I believe you're going, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll do it for you. But we're really in the final touches of doing a site preparation, confirming funding from Customs, having an MOU that Betsy and her counterpart in Mexico is working on. And I want to make sure that this committee gets the credit, because and especially Mayor Sergio Dedina, because this took a while to get it to the level that we did. And I want to invite you, the whole committee members, if they are, to let us know. On April 8th, we're actually having a tour that goes from here for all the board of directors to go to Otay Mesa East before the meeting and come back and continue the meeting. So if any of the border committee members are interested, let us know so we can have you there.
That's great. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to see you. And so can we get a vote, please?
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Vivian Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Joel Anderson. My apologies, I didn't quite hear your vote, Supervisor.
Aye.
Thank you. For East County, I believe Councilmember Laura Koval.
Koval, aye.
For Imperial County, Supervisor Louis Plancart.
Aye.
For North County Coastal, Mayor Dave Drucker.
Yeah, Councilmember Dave Drucker votes yes.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Councilmember John Franklin.
I vote yes.
And for South County, Chair Serge Dedina.
Dedina, yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously.
Good. Now we'll move on to item number 4. The Borders Committee looks ahead. And before we begin with any business, I just want to let you all know that unfortunately one of our very own committee members and a longtime committee member and dear friend, Jim Dahl, a former 4-time mayor of San Clemente, recently passed away. Jim spent many years contributing to the development of regional solutions and was a real pleasure to work with and know. He was also a career firefighter and very, very involved in the San Clemente community. He was a devoted husband, father, and apparently real committed grandfather. So I know that we really enjoyed serving with Jim here. And as someone who spent his life in the water, I really enjoyed talking to Jim about the ocean and especially about white sharks, which appeared off his beach with regularity. So we just want to send out his best to his family, obviously friends, and his colleagues. And then just to let you know, the family is having a public celebration of life Sunday, March 27th, from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Vista Hermosa Sports Park in San Clemente, and our condolences go out to them at this time. And before we continue, I just want to share something that may be widely recognized by highlights unique condition facing our region, and that's what's going on in Europe has affected even us here on the border. We have Ukrainians and even Russians waiting in Tijuana to cross as humanitarian refugees. So it just shows that we are all connected. And then last month, we had the pleasure of hearing from founding members and past chairs of this committee, Crystal Crawford, and then Patricia McCoy, who's from Imperial Beach, who inspired us with their experience and vision. In their messages, we both agreed that we have learned a lot by working across our borders. And remember, as borders across counties with our Native American partners and tribal leaders, and of course, our country to the south, Mexico, forging new and valuable relationships. Today, I'm inviting 2 more former members to speak. First, our immediate past chair, John Mento, Mayor of Santee, who joins me here, was my predecessor, who I really appreciated serving with and really served as a great model for me as a friendly, open, transparent board chair. I really appreciated that, John. And then, of course, the legend himself, Paul Ganster from San Diego State, who's just, I can't say enough about all the things that Paul has done as a professor, but really a regional leader, an international leader on border planning and border environmental issues, as well as a host of many other things. So with that, and Paul is the chair of the Committee on Binational Regional Opportunities, or COBRO. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Mayor Minto, so you can give us a message. Thank you.
Thank you. I remember when I was a chair and you were kind of new here at the Borders Committee, you still stumbled over your words. So good to see some things never change. which is like poking fun at each other. So we've always had that great opportunity. Thanks for having me here today. And I'm going to just kind of make this like we're talking back and forth, and that way people can get a really good feeling for how we've done business here for over the years. I know when I first started, 20 years ago, as a matter of fact, that's what our anniversary is for the Borders Committee, is 20 years. And I had no idea when I first started that it was brand new. I thought everybody had been around here for a long time. Crystal Crawford was the chair, and Pat McCoy was chair, and they operated this place like they knew what was going on. And quite frankly, what I didn't know is we were all learning all at once. And so kind of figuring out, okay, what does it mean, Borders Committee? And what we really figured out is that what other people didn't know, and that is when we said Borders Committee, everybody said, oh, why do we need at Sandag a committee to go and talk about the international border? It's not our job. We're just locally elected officials. Well, we had to explain that, well, it doesn't just mean the international border. It's like what Serge was saying a moment ago. It has to do with 17 tribal borders, has to do with the Orange County border, the San Diego Imperial County border, and having people that can talk about what's going on between different areas, because I don't care where the border is, things still happen on either side. Things don't stop. If you're going to Orange County, it doesn't change. You know, if there's a business on one side of the border or not, people still go there. It doesn't matter where they live. Same thing for Imperial County. And actually, we've learned over the years that it's the same thing for the international border. And I can tell you that if anybody's been to any of the tribal reservations and seen what's going on there, definitely that border doesn't mean a whole lot as far as changing the way things are. When I was there, though, what we did is we had to really kind of figure out, what do we want to do as far as the future goes? And who should be participating in that? And what was fun for me is that I got to learn more about the tribal borders and our Indian nations that were right here in San Diego County, because like most people, and I'll never forget Chris Stevers. He was the chair of the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association at the time. And we all got together on this committee and said, okay, let's have a summit, but what do we do? What do we talk about? And I had to be really frank. And I said, listen, I'm just a guy that watched TV, and all I knew is there was cowboys and Indians. And people looked at me like, well, that's not really appropriate to say. But Chris spoke up and said, you know what? We find out that's what most people know about Native American tribes. The only thing he added is that when we played cowboys and Indians, we always wanted to be the cowboys because we'd want to win for a change. And we all got a great laugh at that. But what it did is it really told us a lot about what stereotyping is and what people believe or people don't believe about what's going on. So it made borders even that much more important to be able to tell a story. And today, Cody Martinez, he's on the board of directors. I don't know if he's on the board here, but they for Sycuan, and they have a new website, for instance, and on their website, they talk about Indian gaming, they talk about their tribe, and they talk about a little bit more than that as far as how it expands and made them resilient and how the sovereignty played into so much. And I can tell you that that's the same thing we talked about 20 years ago. And when we also talked about being more inclusive, we went to the border. We said, we need to fix this San Ysidro border. Trucks take too long to get across. People take too long to get across, going north and south. And so we worked on that. And today, I think we have a very vibrant San Ysidro port of entry. But way back then, we also talked about we need to have something more like Otay Mesa port of entry. And today, that's about ready to kick off in the not too distant future, which is going to create a much better ingress and egress for both Americans, or well, I'll just say people that are going north and south, because who knows what their nationality is anymore, which is wonderful because it shows the inclusiveness. And so today, I'm very pleased to be here, because I always had fun on borders. I was on it for about, I think, 14 or 16 years, something like that. chaired it for 6 years. And I remember when you were on the Borders Committee and people around the board, we used to have binational meetings. We used to have meetings, educational seminars and meetings at different places, and people who were very instrumental in making changes throughout the region. And I, for one, very happy to have been part of that, helped me learn and grow and become a better council member first. And now that I'm a mayor, it certainly has made me a better mayor because I understand, I know to listen. That's a tough one for me, 64 years old. And when the board of directors is there for 3 hours, I got to get up and leave at least once. So, that's one thing I've learned is patience. And that would be my message to the rest of the Borders Committee is patience. May not seem like the work that you're doing here is specifically all that sexy or important, but you know what? What you do here today is going to make a difference on what happens in our communities and at our borders, all of our tribal borders, county borders in the future. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, Serge.
Very well said. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate, and I think something that's important for this committee as we invite people to the table is being friendly and welcoming and just more relaxed, I think. I think that's something I learned from you and I really appreciate because I think that form of diplomacy is more important than ever.
Well, if you remember correctly, what did I tell everybody? Hey, let's have fun.
Right.
And just get the people's work done.
Right. But also, I want to thank you. I know that also, I think the more rewarding and educational experience for me has been working with our tribal partners. Yeah. I think that's been really, I'm going to say eye-opening, but educational for me, and also really been pleased to see the progress that has been made on Sandag's partnership with our tribal partners. Really, really, really nice. So with that, I want to also just introduce, again, Paul Ganster of San Diego State University, the chair of the COBRO committee, but someone who has spent a lifetime promoting citizen diplomacy, civic engagement, great regional and binational, international planning and environmental initiatives, someone who's made a big difference in our region, and someone I really enjoy talking to and spending time with, and that's Paul Ganster. And so please take it away, Paul.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Chair Dedina, and nice to see you again, Mayor Minto. It's been a while. I look for you in Lowe's and in Santee, but still haven't found you, but someday we'll bump into each other there. I've been a member of the Committee on Binational Regional Opportunities, COBRO, since its establishment by Sandag in 1996. In 2001, COBRO began reporting to the newly established Borders Committee that encompassed all of San Diego's international and domestic borders, including tribal borders. As an institution, Sandag emerged beginning in 1966 as a comprehensive planning organization and within the county government, and eventually evolved into the Sandag that we know today. From the start, Mexico was affiliated with the emerging institution, first as an honorary member, then as an advisory board member. Increasing economic integration across the border fully engaged Sandag in the planning and implementation efforts for the new Otay Mesa port of entry that opened in 1985. This port of entry effort and the free trade / NAFTA process that grew from the late 1980s led to the creation of COBRO's systematic way to engage across the border. COBRO provides public forums for cross-border planning in the areas of transportation, environmental management, education, water supply, and economic development. COBRO has been a part of Sandag's successful efforts in those areas for 25 years. Thanks to Sandag and members and leadership of Borders, our region is unusual along the US-Mexican border in having a well-established and institutionalized cross-border collaborative partnership for planning. We are viewed both nationally and internationally as a model for cross-border collaboration. Planning and transportation infrastructure development, especially across the international border, requires a more proactive and long-term approach than ordinary activities of local governments. The successive planning and implementation of Otay Mesa East, or Otay 2, demonstrates this proactive and realistic approach of Sandag. Often, however, responses of all three levels of government to border contingencies and many routine issues have been reactive, and failure to anticipate and have policies and responses in place has resulted in economic and social dislocation. The 9/11/2001 border security crisis and the 2020 pandemic border crisis illustrate this point. The 2020 pandemic crisis demonstrated the advanced economic and social integration across the border and underlined the need to understand that we live in a binational metropolitan region. The federal government willy-nilly imposed border restrictions, totally without scientific analysis, local consultations, or knowledge of the local border reality. The result was a huge negative economic impact on the regional economy, including retail trade and commuter workers, as well as cruelly separating family and friends for some 20 months. The pandemic exposed the lack of a coordinated San Diego-Tijuana transporter regional voice and the reactive nature of local responses. The pandemic also saw the failure of all three levels of government to consider the well-being of people on both sides of the border, including many US citizens. Clearly, our region could benefit from a more proactive, systematic, and consistent approach to developing a binational consensus on challenges and opportunities that we face. We need to better institutionalize transporter cooperation for these purposes so that we are better prepared for the next border crisis, which is inevitable. The border pandemic crisis had been predicted by experts for many years, and a major natural disaster on the border is also a distinct eventuality. How are we prepared for a major earthquake that interrupts Tijuana's water supply from the Mexicali Valley and also affects conveyance to San Diego from the California Water Project and the Colorado River? How prepared are we for a major terrorist event on the border that disrupts regional trade and economic integration? I challenge the Borders Committee and Sandag and COBRO to take steps that will lead to a proactive San Diego regional consensus on issues that are critical to the transborder metropolitan region ahead of the next set of serious border crises. This will enable the San Diego region to better coordinate across the border and facilitate a more efficient border under all conditions. So I'll stop my remarks there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. We really appreciate that and your perspective and all your service as well. So thank you so much. And are there any committee members or members of the public who would like to make a comment at this time? Okay. Well, again, thanks, John and Paul, for your service and providing
We don't have any hands raised for public
Okay.
comments.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll move on. Thanks again, guys. We were hoping to have the mayor of Tijuana, so I'm going to make sure that that invitation is open in the future. Siempre está la invitación a la alcaldesa de Tijuana, Montserrat Caballero, a participar y dar la bienvenida a nosotros en vivo o a través de Zoom, ¿no? Y también todos los colegas de México para que sepan que pueden asistir a la reunión en vivo o tanto como ya acompañarnos a través de Zoom, ¿no? Es más importante que nunca que nos juntamos y nos reunamos, ¿no? Anyway, I just want to make sure that our colleagues in Mexico and the mayor of Tijuana know they're always welcome to provide comments and join us. And at this time, it's more important than ever that we get together and meet and talk. So with that, no more comments to the public. Now we have item number 5, the Otay 2 Port of Entry project update. Again, an exceptionally important project that this committee is helping to move forward with Sandag. And so with that, I will turn it over to Erica Garcia, who will give an overview. And the last time that we've heard a report on the future of Otay Mesa Port of Entry was in 2005, 17 years ago. I'm sorry, the first time we heard a report, I'm sorry, not the last time. Okay. It was an ambitious project, and today we see the light at the end of the tunnel and for 2024. And our Mexican partners have been moving forward with purpose, and President Lopez Obrador revealed great news on the funding and construction plans south of the border. To have a president of Mexico identify a project that he is supporting and really highlighting for support and funding is, for those of us who work in Mexico, know that's extraordinarily unusual and really important. So highlights the importance that Mexico places on this project. And item number 5 is an update on what's happening from our friends in Mexico's Ministry of Infrastructure, Communications and Transportation, or SAICT. And Erica Garcia is the Director of Multimodal Transportation for SICT. So Erica, with that, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, the presentation is going to be in Spanish, so be ready to change channel as needed. So thank you very much. And bienvenidos, Erica, adelante.
Ok, muy buenas tardes a todos. Agradecemos la invitación para poder presentar el avance de lo que llevamos dentro del proyecto Mesa de Otay 2. Como bien se mencionó, este es un proyecto presidencial. El señor presidente López Obrador está involucrado al 100%, nos está apoyando para poder continuar con estos avances que ahora presentaremos. Sabemos que es un reto mayor, sabemos que tenemos mucho por hacer todavía, pero estamos en el camino para poder concluir, como bien se mencionó también, en el año 2024 este puerto fronterizo. Sí, la siguiente, por favor. Bueno, como todo el mundo ya sabe, este proyecto binacional por parte de México consta de una vialidad de acceso desde la autopista Tecate-Tijuana hacia el puerto fronterizo con una longitud de 1.2 kilómetros, la cual estará dividida en 4 carriles en cada sentido y un distribuidor vial. Dentro del puerto fronterizo nosotros contamos con 31 hectáreas, las cuales ya se está trabajando el proyecto ejecutivo por parte de la UNAM. La ventaja, como también se mencionó, es dar un beneficio a toda la población en ambos lados de la frontera. Este beneficio será el tiempo de espera que se está estimando, sean de 20 minutos máximo, a través de toda la tecnología que se está proponiendo para este nuevo cruce fronterizo. La siguiente, por favor. Aquí nada más queríamos mostrarle a todos los presentes la parte mexicana donde se va a construir esta vialidad de acceso por parte de la Secretaría y que tenemos una torre de alta tensión, una línea de alta tensión, la cual afortunadamente se firmó ya el contrato el 17 de este mes para poder iniciar los trabajos de reubicación. ¿Qué esperamos con ello? Pues que se agilice el trámite para poder empezar la construcción de esta vialidad de acceso. La siguiente, por favor. Aquí lo que les comentaba, nuestro proyecto consta de un distribuidor. Al lado izquierdo se puede ver que la unión de la autopista Tecate-Tijuana. Este proyecto de distribuidor es a través de 3 gasas. Bueno, les dejo ver el video. Muchas gracias por la presentación del video. Entonces, como les comentaba, esta vialidad troncal consta de 1.2 kilómetros como ya pudieron observar, fue un recorrido por cada una de las gasas para llegar al puerto fronterizo y a la vez salir hacia la autopista Tecate-Tijuana. El proyecto ejecutivo de esta vialidad lo tenemos al 100%, ya no tenemos ahí ningún problema. Estamos compaginándonos también con el proyecto del puerto fronterizo para que la llegada se coordine en cuanto a niveles y tipo de estructuras. La siguiente, por favor. Este es un corte, podemos ver los 4 carriles en ambos sentidos, no quiero ser tan técnica, y como podemos ver también la reubicación de la línea de alta tensión, la cual se cambiará por unos postes troncocónicos que irán al lado este de la vialidad sobre las calles laterales, sobre la banqueta, ahí se va a alojar esta línea, y también tenemos un gasoducto que se va a ubicar en ese mismo lado de la vialidad. La siguiente, por favor. Lo que les comentaba hace un momento, yo creo que un paso también muy grande que se ha dado en este mes fue la contratación ya de los trabajos con CFE. Se firmó el contrato el 17 de marzo y los trabajos de ingeniería aquí empezarán el 28 de este mes, teniendo una duración de 5 meses para poder iniciar posteriormente los trabajos en sitio. Y Enova también trabaja dentro de su reubicación del gasoducto, entonces creo que, como les comentaba en un principio, esto es un gran logro también, que no habíamos podido establecer esta relación con CFE, lo tenemos ya, estamos haciendo la liberación del derecho de vías. Si pasamos a la siguiente lámina, por favor. Bueno, este es el proyecto. ¿Por qué tenemos que trabajar con Sila? Porque encontramos un flujo de agua. En este proyecto, pues también tenemos que involucrar a varias dependencias que permitan continuar con el proyecto ejecutivo, lo cual se tomó en cuenta para poder tener ya, como comentábamos, el 100% de este proyecto. La siguiente, por favor. Aquí, bueno, este es un poco de la información que también tenemos por parte ahora ya no es SAT, tenemos la agencia ANAM, en donde el proyecto ejecutivo de este puerto fronterizo lo realizan a través de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. Contamos ya con este proyecto ejecutivo en cuestión arquitectónica, se ha trabajado binacionalmente, se han tenido reuniones con Estados Unidos, con las dependencias, precisamente para coordinar la funcionalidad en ambos lados de la frontera. La siguiente, por favor. Las áreas que se están liberando del derecho de vía. Sabemos que el puerto fronterizo cuenta con 31 hectáreas para poder alojar todos la zona de inspección y el edificio de las dependencias que se alojan dentro de este puerto fronterizo. Para la vialidad de acceso tenemos el entronque y la misma vialidad con las hectáreas que están. Afortunadamente tenemos también ya aquí la liberación al 100% de la vialidad de acceso que pertenecía al ejido Matamoros, el cual ya ha sido pagado. Se trabaja en el puerto fronterizo tenemos pagado alrededor de el 20-22% del puerto fronterizo. Se siguen con las negociaciones para poder concluir esta liberación de todos los predios. La siguiente, por favor. Bueno, este es un poquito de la cuestión de nosotros, como se requiere presentar ante la unidad de inversiones el proyecto, se trabaja en ello también para el visto bueno, que esto es dentro de la dependencia, son cuestiones internas. La siguiente, por favor. Con lo que tenemos ahorita en trabajos binacionales, tenemos el sistema de ITS. Esto dará una velocidad, una agilidad a todo el cruce, implementando estos sistemas de tecnología por parte tanto de México como de Estados Unidos. Para la compartición también de la tarifa, nosotros estamos trabajando con el documento que permita tener esa compartición de peajes. Creo que vamos en buen camino, estamos a punto de lograr acuerdos. Por supuesto que ya tenemos ahí, sabemos que se va a hacer una compartición en un principio de un 40-60%, para concluirlo a años futuros que sea siempre el 50% para ambos países. Para todo ello, pues sabemos que esto ha sido de gran apoyo, que el estudio que entregó SANDAC, precisamente para conocer estos flujos y saber el ingreso que se va a tener. Nosotros, por parte de México, teníamos previsto tener una concesión de la vialidad y recuperar con peajes la inversión. Al día de hoy, sabemos que Sedena construirá esta vialidad y que la recuperación de los peajes, bueno, ahorita ya no es un factor para la inversión. Tenemos el recurso a través de la instrucción presidencial para que Sedena pueda trabajar con los recursos que generan las aduanas. Entonces, afortunadamente el recurso ya no es un problema para nosotros, ya no tenemos que sacar a licitación este proyecto y estamos caminando en entregar toda la información a Sedena. La siguiente, por favor. Pues bueno, nada más es una representación de cómo estamos trabajando con los sistemas inteligentes de transporte y en resumidas cuentas, pues nada más comentarles entonces de que este proyecto seguimos en él. El presidente López Obrador está involucrado, la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, la Secretaría de Comunicaciones y Transportes, ANAM, Hacienda. Entonces, como les comentaba, nosotros, bueno, estamos avanzando en la liberación del derecho de vía, tenemos el proyecto ejecutivo, trabajamos con los ITS, trabajamos con la repartición de peajes, la compartición de peajes, y bueno, creo que en muchos años, como se comentó, ya se había estado realizando este trabajo y ahora se ven los frutos, esperando que para 2024 estemos ya poniendo en operación este nuevo cruce. No sé si hay algunas preguntas. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Erica. Thank you so much, Erica. We really appreciate it. And I know one thing that we appreciate here is that Erica is really the official memory of the project, someone who's been really involved with it for a while and a great partner. So I think the other important thing for those of us who've been involved with this project for a while is this was the world premiere of this, at least on our side of the border, of this information and the visualization. So lo que comentaba Erica, creo que es el primer mundial por lo menos en Estados Unidos, el video, por ejemplo, a realmente mostrarnos en qué forma va a ser el proyecto, ¿no? Y ya sabemos que es un proyecto súper complicado. It's a really complicated project. So we do appreciate all the work you've done already, but all the work it's going to take to do this. But more importantly, the priority that President López Obrador has put on this project that is so important, and we do not underestimate or not appreciate that. We do appreciate that a lot. So thank you so much. Are there questions for Erica or comments from the public?
Yes, there is a hand raised from the member of the public, Tomás Pérez Vargas. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, and I'll raise my question in Spanish. Erika, muy buenas tardes por allá en la Ciudad de México. Qué gusto volverte a ver. La pregunta es muy sencilla. En un momento se tenía pensado ese Boulevard de las Torres de 1 kilómetro, esa vialidad, extenderla prácticamente a la vía rápida para poder tener mejor garantía de los tiempos de llegada, ¿no? A la garita. Veo que ahorita la intersección la tienen nomás hasta el Boulevard Industrial. ¿Sigue algún plan para que en el futuro se conecte hasta la vía rápida?
Sí, por parte del gobierno de Baja California tienen el proyecto de continuarlo sobre Alamar, me parece que se llama la avenida Alamar. Sí hay un proyecto, no es a corto plazo, sería como una segunda etapa para poder precisamente permitir la entrada y salida más fluida, en especial de carga. pero lo trae el gobierno de Baja California, perdón. Y lo que también está en propuesta es un tercer carril sobre la Tecate-Tijuana, que también Baja California, el gobierno de Baja California lo está trabajando. Entonces, yo creo que a partir de como ya tenemos nuestras vialidades, va a empezar a fluir todos los requerimientos anexos que se tienen para poder dar un seguimiento. No es en primera instancia, pero sí hay algunos planes para continuar con la expansión de las vialidades.
Muchas gracias, Erika.
Thank you, Tomas and Erica. Additional questions, comments from the public? Gustavo, there you go. Thank you.
Chair Dedina. I wanted to echo some of the things that you said and want to thank Erica for an excellent presentation. As you mentioned, Chair Dedina, this project has required a lot of coordination and partnership on both sides of the border. And I know that Erica and the rest of the SCT team has been there since the beginning. The reason that we are so far along on both sides of the border is thanks to that coordination and that partnership. So I want to congratulate her for all the progress made. I love the video. I think it puts into perspective all the work that is happening on the other side of the border, and full steam ahead to get this done by 2024. Thank you.
No, thanks, Gustavo. And, you know, I think you're right about the video, because I had this impression it was just going to be like a 4-lane boulevard, you know, and so, lo que yo pensaba era que iba a ser un boulevard, una calle de 4 carriles y ya, o sea, muy sencillo, ¿no? Y gracias al video ya entendí qué tal complejo es el proyecto, ¿no? Y avanzado, ¿no? En términos del diseño. So I was saying, you know, I'm really glad we saw that, because it really gives us a good idea of how complicated this project is and the amount of work that needs to happen, but the vision on both sides of the border. So, and more importantly, Gustavo, I want to thank you and the Caltrans and the state of California team for your commitment to working on this project with your colleagues in Mexico. It's really exceptional. So we have more questions or comments?
There are no hands raised for public comment, Chair Dedina.
Great. Well, gracias, Erica. Thank you so much, Erica, you and your team. We really appreciate that. And please pass on our thank you to all you and your colleagues, and of course, the President López Obrador as well. So thank you.
Muchas gracias. Y nada más, pues sí, recalcar esa parte binacional que hemos tenido una coordinación excelente. Todos los participantes también del lado de Estados Unidos. Creo que ha sido una labor titánica. Les agradezco que no me digan directamente que soy la más vieja en este proyecto, sino la memoria. Entonces, agradecer definitivamente toda la labor binacional que se ha hecho con todas las dependencias. Sin el apoyo tan fuerte que hemos tenido por parte de ustedes, no se hubiera logrado este proyecto. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Erica. And now we'll move on to item number 6, something of equal importance from our colleagues on this side of the border. And that's an update on State Route 11, Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project update and next steps with Mario Orso from Caltrans and Maria Rodriguez Lina from Sandag. And so take it away, please.
Mario, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. We'll go started. If we could start with the first slide. I'm going to change some of my comments to kind of show how we're working with Erica and her team on the Mexican side. This slide, a lot of you have already seen it, is how we're doing. We're basically finishing the roadway facilities. I think we can't stop stressing this is a corridor project, meaning it, like Erica showed on the Mexican side, the roadway access and the port of entry. On our side, it's about $1.1 billion. Our up to date, we have invested close to $600 million, $592 million. In the split, you could see on the screen about 51% federal dollars, 40% state, and 9% local. We're basically finishing, like I said, the roadway features. The very last component is the piece of the interchange of this southbound 905 to, excuse me, southbound 125 to westbound 905, and that completes all the movements between the connectors of 3 major highways connecting, which is 125, 905, and State Route 11, which is the route that will lead you to the port of entry, the new proposed port of entry. To remind the participants, State Route 11, like Erica said, it's a toll facility, and I'll mention a little bit more, but we're sharing the tolls with our Mexican partners, one single toll location, both on the US and one single toll location for both the US and Mexico, northbound and southbound. We're pretty much focused on moving forward now with the port of entry as we're wrapping up the transportation facilities. Can we go to the next slide? We have our own video. Erica blew us with her production because we need to put some cool sound here. But as you can see, this is State Route 11.
They got, you know, I think you guys would have Journey or, you know, Van Halen or something like that.
Yeah, so we're going over the Enrico Fermi, and you could see all this is already constructed. State Route 11, the Alta Road bridge that carries water into Mexico also. And then as we're approaching the Siempre Viva interchange that should be finished this fall. And we could also see the toll plaza, the little white line crossing the highway after Siempre Viva interchange. And then you could see a simulation of the port of entry as well as the commercial vehicle enforcement facility that the Highway Patrol is going to be operating. You could also see that Erica's sim is very similar to ours. It's because we're working as a team, and we have the Mexican port of entry also shown on the top of the screen as we're rotating. The facility is going to be medium sized, like we've mentioned before, but we have space to grow because this is the port of entry for the remaining of the century. This is our last remaining landmass, both for Mexico and us, to build a major port of entry for the San Diego, Tijuana region. So it's going to be designed in a modular way that we can keep growing and plugging in new technology. And that's something that Erica mentioned. The technology piece of it. We are working with Mexico also, and we'll wait to go to the next slide, and already developing the infrastructure from a technology point of view on all the other ports of entry for a border wait time system on all the border crossings. Can we go to the next slide? And the reason of that is because State Route 11, Otay Mesa East and Otay 2, it's going to be a dynamically toll facility where the toll is going to be based on the weights, but it's going to be based on the weight that it's coming or into the US or going into Mexico at the new ports of entry, but also the other ports of entry. So we have developed a new border wait time system for both northbound and southbound. I do have to say that we have already deployed and it's operating the southbound system, and the northbound system is already deployed, but we're calibrating it. And Chair Dedina mentioned the challenges the border keeps having with the different dynamics. And that's one of the challenges we have had with the border wait time system, as the queues have now gone, or the lines have gone further behind or longer than what we had expected that our farthest readers would be. So we will have to install an additional reader so we can read accurately the border wait times at those peak hours, especially the AM ones. So that's what's been holding us up on publishing our results and having our system go live. But we're pretty excited. We're already getting reads, and we're already installing major fiber optic lines, about 25 miles of fiber optic lines in San Diego, coming from downtown San Diego to San Isidro and to Otay Mesa to complement the Otay Mesa East project. Can we go to the next slide? So it was mentioned that we signed a memorandum of understanding in the summer, last summer, and the major elements was the ITS system that was mentioned, and that Erica also mentioned that we're working together, sharing the tolls like I have mentioned, the binational financing strategy, and I'll discuss a little bit about that, but in Hassan mentioned that there's going to be a upcoming Borders Committee meeting, and in the near future. And that's where the Chief Financial Officer will be presenting in more detail elements of the financial strategy that we're working with Mexico, the toll revenue understandings and the agreements that we're working out, like Erica mentioned. In the commitment to strive to open this facility by late 2024 in the single toll location. So I just wanted to bring up this memorandum that was signed up. Can we go to the next one? I think it's just a picture, so we can probably go to the next one. Those are just pictures that were when the signatures went on. So financing strategy, I think a major element that we wanna inform you all is that we have started the TIFIA loan process with DOT, Department of Transportation. It's a journey. It's TIFIA is a soft loan that the federal government presents to projects that collect tolls or can provide an annuity payment. In this case, TIFIA has looked at our project and they want to start evaluating it, and they have asked us to begin indicative ratings, meaning going to the rating agencies and start getting a rating for the project based on the traffic and revenue study that was finalized and that CFO will be coming and presenting to you in the near future. But that also brings up other items that Hassan mentioned, which is as we're going now into the rubber meets the road on the financing of this project, agreements. And we had mentioned in prior occasions, agreements on revenue sharing, agreements on operations, agreements on intelligent transportations, on toll systems, on governance, agreements with the US federal government on operating hours, on staffing. They are all agreements that will be required for us to materialize a financing element. And I think that's something very important that I wanted to highlight, that we will be coming back multiple times to the Borders Committee as you are the trustee to provide recommendations on financial elements or financing elements or strategies to the Board of Directors on this project. So I just want to put that and raise the flag that that's coming up, and it's pretty interesting and it's pretty fun. But there's going to be a lot of more work that's coming up, which is very exciting here. Can we go to the next slide? So like I mentioned, we're finishing the roadway facilities. You could see here the end of the roadway that we saw on the sim. This is the toll plaza where the toll collection will be occurring. Hopefully the majority of the toll collection is going to be electronic, but we are laser focused on the next phase, which is the port of entry, the commercial vehicle enforcement facility that the Highway Patrol will be operating, and developing the ITS tolling collection and advanced traveler systems. And I'll let Maria discuss what are those next steps.
Thank you, Mario. So as you can see, with the roadway components almost complete, we are already starting the work on the site of the POE. And that's the area you can see there. There is a big culvert that we're building. We started earthwork activities, and truly now we're focusing on delivering the remaining components. Next slide, please. So what are the remaining components? Number one, you can see the site preparation. We decided to advance the project and decrease risk. It would be a good idea to put the site preparation out first. And that's a project that is being advertised by Caltrans at the beginning of April. So soon in the summer, we'll have a groundbreaking ceremony for the site preparation of the port of entry. We're there. We're already starting the port of entry. So now it's just putting together the documentation for the next elements. So Caltrans will do the site preparation, and now SANDAG will put out the contract for the buildings themselves of the port of entry, the ITS systems, and the California Highway, the California Enforcement Facility, number 4 that you see on the screen. So those will be packaged as one contract, and we're working on that documentation. If we go to the next slide, we can dive into it. So there's some boxes here that highlight our schedule and summarize it. The first line is the site prep work that we're doing. We'll advertise in April. We'll have a notice to proceed probably at the end of June. We'll finish work on the utilities. We'll get a very nice flat pad where the buildings will sit, and hopefully everything gets completed by June 2023. In the meantime, what we're doing is working on that package of information for the remaining components. So we did release a pre-solicitation notice to industry, letting them know that we're coming out soon with the project RFQ, the request for qualification. That's an element we will be bringing to the board on April 22nd, as Victoria mentioned, to be able to proceed with the design build option and to be able to release the RFQ early May. After that, we'll get into selecting the top 3 teams and releasing an RFP to those 3 teams that will develop the concept, the plans, and the cost estimates. And in January, they'll be putting in those proposals, and we'll select the team, the winning team, that will start the work on the port of entry early in 2023. The other activities, as Mario mentioned before, we're finalizing the financial strategy with Mexico. And we're working on all of the understandings and agreements between CBP, GSA, SICT, ANAM, and all of the agencies involved. So that really summarizes all the work that needs to happen so that we have an opening ceremony at the end of September, probably sometime in September 2024. So that's all the next steps that are coming up, a lot of work, and you're gonna start seeing us more often at these committee meetings. So thank you for having us. This is everything we have for today.
Thank you both, Mario and Maria. Great news, really exciting, and really excited that we're moving even faster on this project. And I just have to say, I'm pretty impressed with Sandag's track record recently. The Blue Line, all the bluff improvements to Del Mar and this, things that are moved quick, important projects that move quickly and on budget. So that's really great. And just to remind the Borders Committee, because I think, Mario, you set that up well, and Maria as well. We have a sort of our responsibility, and according to Board Policy 1, the Borders Committee has delegated responsibility to recommend border infrastructure financing strategies to the board. And the financing strategies for this project will be absolutely critical and innovative, right? So, there's gonna be a lot of really interesting, innovative policy coming out of this committee. We appreciate Mario and Maria and your team and our colleagues in Mexico for really working together to figure this out, but it'll be the job of this committee to really help the board make those decisions and to make this happen. So really appreciate that opportunity. And with that, please mark your calendars for Friday, April 15th at 10 a.m. when we will have a joint meeting with the Transportation Committee to hear important milestones and possibly recommend action related to this project to be taken by the board. So with that, do we have questions from Mario or Maria? Public comments first?
There are no hands raised for public comment. Chair Dedina.
No comments. Okay. Any public comment? Any member comments? Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to do it in Spanish and we have the translation system. Muchas gracias, representando al gobierno del estado. Únicamente reconocer, como ya lo hicieron anteriormente, tanto nuestro chair, el Mayor Serge Dedina, como lo hizo también el Mayor de Santee, John Minto, acerca de esta colaboración que se está dando, ¿no? Héctor Vanegas ha sido crucial en ser el enlace siempre con nosotros, en invitarnos, en que colaboremos de manera estrecha para planificar, para que las cosas se hagan y que todos los entes que estén involucrados y las dependencias de ambos lados de la frontera logremos el objetivo, ¿no? Se tuvo un buen foro en el cual estuvo usted como chair con el embajador Salazar y la gobernadora, la lieutenant governor, embajadora Kolinakis, y creo que fue una buena experiencia. Todos nos quedamos con un buen sabor de boca acerca de lo que se puede lograr y comprometiéndonos a que fuera a finales de 2023, ¿no? Reconocer también la labor que está haciendo Mario Orso en encabezar el esfuerzo por la parte técnica, lo que está haciendo el equipo de SANDAC, precisamente a su presidente Hassan a todo el equipo en este esfuerzo y a las ciudades de San Diego, ¿no? Como gobierno de Baja California tenemos un compromiso en cumplir con esa política que nos dicta el gobierno federal también, que estamos cumpliendo en tiempo y forma con nuestra obligación. Muchas gracias.
No, thank you. And I should have been a lot better at acknowledging the important support of the state of Baja California and the governor on this issue. So I apologize that there's always somebody I feel like I'm missing. So thank you very much. I know the support of the new governor of Baja California, as well as the entire state, has been critical for this. And working together with the federal government and the Ayuntamiento de Tijuana has been critical as well, and all those partnerships across the border. So thank you very much. Mario or Maria, any comments on that?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Great. Additional comments or questions?
I
There are
see
no hands raised for public comments, Chair Dedina.
One thing I just wanted to acknowledge, and I always say this, but it's really rare to have, as someone who does professional conservation for a living and land conservation as well as environmental work, it's really nice to see these projects in which, again, we need to own this. We're reducing emissions, improving air quality. We're going to improve our quality of life and improve the economy. That's a big deal, right? Like, it's really important. But also the important work that went on in San Diego starting in the 1980s with the preservation of huge areas of land around Otay Mesa for habitat conservation. And so the trade-off to allow these projects to happen because of the forward thinking that was done in land conservation with the Fish and Wildlife Service, the County of San Diego, and City of San Diego as well, and the City of Chula Vista. So and the state of California, really important to acknowledge how much work has gone into this and forward thinking and planning that covers all the bases. So thanks again, guys. And Maria.
Just to highlight, Chair, what you just said, the environmental mitigation for this project was acquired in 2010 and 2012. All the environmental mitigation has been established for this project even before we started even pouring concrete on the first lanes.
Yeah, which is really great. Like, it's really, really smart stuff. And I've always said, Mario, you and your team are the NASA of binational planning. So
Yeah.
I know from your global command center, you'll continue to impress us, and we'll continue to work with you guys to move this forward. So with that, again, Erica, thank you, Mario and Maria and the entire team. Thank you very much, everyone. And with that, we'll move on to more really interesting work and someone who's doing great work. And that's item number 7, and that's from Melissa Floca from the University of San Diego Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice. Of highlights, Melissa's going to provide some highlights on a recently published analysis on unique characteristic dynamics and sectors of the Cali-Baja binational economy that enable its global competitive edge. And as we emerge from this pandemic, but deal with obviously issues of recession and inflation, it's really important. This analysis is really important in understanding where we're at and why this border region is so dynamic is more critical than ever. So with that, Melissa, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to hearing your analysis.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you all today and to share this work on the Cali-Baja regional economy. What I'll be sharing today is a report that was prepared by the Allers Center for International Business at USD in collaboration with the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. There are 4 authors on the report, including me, Professor Alan Jin, Professor Pedro Paulo Uraca, and Professor David Shirk, as well as 2 graduate students who helped us with this work, one from USD and one from UABC. And I think that this report is really a testament to the kind of collaboration that goes on across the cross-border region in the academic space and with economic development professionals. This is a report that is an update to a report that's been produced a couple of times before. And I think, we've always been really lucky to be able to work with folks from USD, UCSD, COLEF, and UABC in putting this together because it's work that can't be done from just one side of the border. And so what I'll be sharing with you today is basically compiled from US and Mexican data sources where we're using the North American Industry Classification System codes. And the data comes from almost all publicly available data, except a little bit of data that we're using from EMSI, which isn't publicly available on the value add from the San Diego economy, but otherwise all the data sources are available. It's just that the process of pulling the data together from both sides and doing the analysis can often be complicated when you're working with different data from different states, different countries. You need some things at the municipal level, at the county level. And so it's a process that we've done a couple of times before with the 2009 data, 2014 data, and now with 2018 data, because that's the time each year that, or in every 5 years, that the Mexican data comes out on economic data from the economic census on the Mexican side of the border. So we have mostly data from 2018 that we're reporting, and then we'll have data again that'll come out in 2023. And so we'll be able to use what we're sharing with you today, and then what will come out in 2023 to understand a little bit better the impact of the pandemic over the last couple of years in our region. But as we do this, what we typically do is focus on counting workers and firms and the contribution of those workers and firms to the region's GDP. So the value that's created by our firms and our workers here in Cali Baja. And so we're not able to tell you things from this data at the specific company level. All of this data is aggregate data that comes out about our regional economy. So there's some limitations there, of course, but it does help us understand broad trends and concentrations of where workers are. And one of the most important ways that we think about this is using something that's called location quotients, where basically we're looking at the concentration of workers in this region as compared to other places. So basically, if per capita we have 10 people working in a sector that the US economy only has 1 person per capita working in that sector, then we can see that we have a 10 times concentration of workers in a sector, and that we have a comparative advantage there. And that's one of the most important ways that we use this data to understand our regional specializations. So I don't think that anyone will be terribly surprised by what I'm presenting here, but basically these are the 7 industries in the cross-border region that have the highest concentrations of workers, jobs, and value add. So medical equipment and supplies, semiconductors, audio video equipment, aerospace, other miscellaneous manufacturing, which includes sporting goods, electronic instruments, communications equipment, and then commercial and service industry machinery. And so in total here in Cali Baja, those 7 manufacturing industries account for 230,000 workers, roughly, and about $17 billion of value that's created by our region. And some of the takeaways, the most important takeaways from that for us are that where we have these really important concentrations of workers, we have 52,000 of them in San Diego, and we have about 177,000 of them in Baja. So the manufacturing capacity in terms of workers is definitely concentrated on the Mexican side of the border. However, when we look at the value that's being created, about $15 billion of that value add is being generated from the San Diego side of the border, with $2.2 billion in value add generated in Baja California. So because the Baja economy is a little bit smaller, or somewhat smaller than the San Diego economy, the contribution on both sides of the border is about the same. You're looking at something on the order of 7 or 8% of the total economy in the region. And then, of course, these workers are supported by 160,000 professional, scientific, and technical service workers, as well as an additional 286,000 manufacturing workers in other manufacturing industries that are highly linked to each other. And then when we look at the education side of the equation, we see about 50,000 college graduates in the region each year, with 16,000 of those graduates coming from the STEM fields, many of them going into the manufacturing economy, or the kinds of jobs around the manufacturing economy that make our region so dynamic. And so these are our key takeaways from the report, which is available online. It includes all of the data for hundreds of industries. both manufacturing and other. And I would encourage folks who are interested in other parts of the economy to take a look at that. What we did there also in the report is share the concentrations and the value add and jobs that come from all of the different the counties and the municipalities. So you can see Tijuana, you can see Mexicali, you can see the parts of the region that you're the most interested in, or you can look at the region as a whole. But just to give you a snapshot of what we see in Tijuana when we move over to Tijuana and look at their industries there, we see some industry concentrations that don't pop up in San Diego. So many of the parts that go into the supply chain, like electrical equipment components, papers, plastics, and then the coating, engraving, and heat treating. So another 72,000 jobs, very highly concentrated in these industries, and another $1 billion plus of value add coming from the Baja side. And similarly, we can look at the San Diego side and we see some manufacturing industries that we don't see in Baja, ship and boat building, for example, pharmaceuticals. And again, big concentrations of jobs with 14,000 more workers in those industries and over $4 billion of value add from the San Diego side of the border. And like I mentioned, if you have an interest in industries outside of manufacturing, you can see that too. Although we don't see too many industries in our region that have higher than average concentrations of workers outside of manufacturing. From the cross-border perspective, it really is the manufacturing industries where we have a cross-border specialization. Just to turn for a moment to some of the impacts of COVID and the pandemic. Of course, we did see in 2019 that although $44 billion was imported from Mexico via truck, that there was a pretty significant fall in exports and imports in California, Mexico land ports, but that by July of 2020, the trade was back to pre-pandemic levels and strongly recovering in 2021. You'll see very similar movement on this side of the border, where in 2019 we exported $25.8 billion to Mexico across the California-Mexico land ports. So in total, trade fell during the pandemic by about $6 billion in 2020, with most of that concentrated in April, May, and June. However, things are right back on track, and over this whole time period, we do see about $200 million in goods on average moving back and forth between our regions and supporting all of these firms and workers that are concentrated here. One other interesting data point that you'll see in the report is on employment. And so we did see employment hit bottom in April 2020 in San Diego, and we saw industries suffering very big job losses like accommodations and food services. This is work that Alan Jin did from our team. But in contrast, he found that the industries with strong cross-border ties, and specifically manufacturing, they were able to weather the employment drop much better than other industries, where manufacturing, which is the yellow line, just had a tiny little downturn, down by about 7%. And so clearly the cross-border economy really did hold up in that sense throughout the pandemic in terms of employment. And then before I wrap up, I want to just touch on one other piece of work that was done by Pedro Araca from COLAF in the report, which looks at the cross-border workers and students. And so he finds that in 2020, we had something on the order of 50,000 folks who are our cross-border workers in the region, and about 12,000 cross-border students from Tijuana and Mexicali coming to San Diego for school. So we really do need the infrastructure at the ports, of course, for our cross-border workers and students. It's not just the movements of goods, it's also the movements of people that are so important to our region and to the ability of people to contribute to our economy. And just to conclude, I would say that we of course see the need from the work that we did to continue all of the wonderful investment in the region that was talked about today in the cross-border infrastructure. We also always need more and better data because while we are able to see lots of things with the data that's available, there's some important limits. The data from the Mexican side on the economic census only coming out every 5 years is one of the most important limits that we have there. And then I would also add that we do see a lot of regional stability concentrated in these industries. And when we did this same work with the 2009 data and the 2014 data, we saw basically the same industry clusters. So there aren't a lot of surprises there. But of course, as manufacturing changes, then we have both an opportunity and a risk there to make sure that our industry stays aligned to those global manufacturing shifts. And to that end, I think, and this is a similar conclusion that we've made, every time we've done this report, there really is a dramatic need to think about reskilling for Industry 4.0 and to focus on inclusive economic development strategies that prioritize the moving up along value chains of both firms and workers so that people in our region who are participating in international trade are able to do it in a way that really contributes to their own quality of life and their family's quality of life. So I'll end there and say that the full report is available at the Aller Center website, along with the appendices, which list all of the data that we pulled together for about 300 industries across the region. And I hope that people find it helpful and interesting to the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and you and your team. Really fascinating stuff. And as Mayor Minto commented to me, it'd be great to see that data from 2010 and even before to see how much we've grown, right? I was actually astounded by the economic engine that you've highlighted that our border region is, and the sheer number of jobs and also the output, the value, right, that is there. But also it just highlights the need, as we saw with Mario and Eric and Maria, that $1 billion isn't a lot of money to invest in that economic engine that's producing an output of over $14 billion a year. And to me, at least, the inadequate infrastructure that still needs to be addressed in water reuse and sewage treatment and all the other infrastructure, we need to really do a lot more forward thinking and forward planning for. So really, really important stuff. Are there questions or comments from the public or board members? Yep.
Melissa, first of all, congratulate you for this study, which is a cross-border collaboration, as you said, with UABC and COLEF. Since this is a very important tool that can be used, let's say, in the Washington, D.C. trip that we are doing with SANDAG and the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, what can we do, or there is some effort that you have done with your colleagues in order to send it to high-rank officials, even in Mexico City or Washington, D.C., or through scholars or, the Woodrow Wilson Institute of the Americas, who's going to use it in order to give the proper diffusion of the document?
So thank you for that question. We haven't individually done that in terms of the researchers that participated in this project, but we did pull the data together this time around at the request of the Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I think that that's because in part they wanted to have it available, for that purpose. So the report is available online and it's pretty accessible. We tried to make it more accessible for policymakers this time than we have in years past. And I think, we're happy to work with people if there's the need for one-pagers or things that further highlight the findings. And then, to the previous point, we did recalculate all the data for 2009, 14, and 14 as well. So you can see in the reports the trends over time too. And so, yes, we're, I don't know that as researchers, any of us have really plans to work on the dissemination to policymakers, but we're very happy to support others if it would be helpful in your own dissemination efforts and in any questions that you have about understanding the methodology that we use to pull the data together.
Thank you.
But Melissa, I'm just going to intervene here, but I would strongly urge you to work with your communication staff at USD to put this into a press release. I think this is highly distributive information that we get a lot of attention from the media, at least in San Diego. I think it's really important. I know that because San Diego did a tremendous job on highlighting the border wait time study, economic impact study, and I was ended up on Fox News on that as well. So do not underestimate the importance of this information as we emerge from the pandemic and the economies in this interesting state. So yeah, I would urge you to consider that. I know that's not your job as an academic, but it definitely helps to get this information out to the public, and it's very important information. You guys have done a tremendous job on using this data, right, to highlight something that's so important for our region and both countries. And it will serve as something really important in anticipation of this trip. And so, Councilmember Drucker, take it away.
Yeah, actually, you did answer the question that I had about whether or not there's historical data. And I think that's really important that we understand the changes between 2009 and 2018, because I think some of the jobs have changed, the industries have changed, et cetera. And I really want to dig into that report to understand what those changes are. So excellent report. And I would also encourage that it be somehow publicized.
Thank you.
Additional questions, comments?
No hands are raised for public comment, Chair Dedina.
Great. Well, thanks, Melissa. We appreciate members of the Academy coming to disseminate information to policymakers and decision makers, and those of us in public service. I really appreciate it, and it's very usable and important information, so we appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation.
Great, thanks. And with that, just item number 8 is just upcoming meetings. Just to remind you that we have the next Borders Committee meeting will be on Friday, April 15th at 10:30 a.m. That'll be a joint meeting with the Transportation Committee. Additionally, Hassan announced today we'll have the April 8th tour of the Otay 2 project. So I'm assuming we'll be getting more information on that. With that, I'm sorry. I was supposed to acknowledge and thank John and just recognize John Franklin, from the city council member from the city of Poway, our new member representing North County.
Vista.
Welcome, and come and hang out with us next time in person. We look forward to meeting you.
I certainly will. Proud to be here from Vista.
Great, thank you so much. And for the rest of the committee, please join us. Hopefully things will stay the way they are now. We never know, but at least while we can, let's get together and hang out and talk borders stuff. With that, have a great weekend, and we thank you all for all your service, and enjoy the weekend. Thanks.